Well, hello there, and I do hope you're all well. Yeah, I know this will be a bit late, but because I've been doing a lot of recording, a lot of videos, it's taken me a long while to get to this one. It's like when the bodge has been carved up so many times, it's difficult to pick out the wheat from the chaff, I suppose. But anyway, let's get to this absolute belter. Now, we've noticed over the years, clearly Yvette Cooper gets really under Priti Patel's skin. I've talked about it a few times on my channel when it comes to cross-party committee meetings where she's absolutely eviscerated the pretty awful Patel because of her just being mean-spirited and quite cruel towards refugees. Well, anyway, she was in the House on Tuesday before the bodge came out to do his insincere apology. And she's there talking about a wonderful Rwanda deal, where we're going to send refugees, vulnerable refugees to 5,000 miles away, how many miles away it is, to Rwanda to be processed. And let's just say, Yvette Cooper was absolutely brilliant. And unfortunately, you're going to have to withstand the rather petulant Priti Patel after, because you got a little gem after. Remember the Maybot, the Home Secretary who did the hostile environment, the go home vans? Well, when you're too much even for the Maybot, you are really, really cruel and in a box of your own, aren't you?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've seen over the last week, Mr. Speaker, this unworkable, shameful and desperate attempt to distract from the Prime Minister's law-breaking that the Home Secretary should not go along with, because she is undermining not just respect for the rule of law, but also her office by providing cover for him. The policies that she has announced today...
Look at face, she's already fidgeting. She's really ready for a ruckus now. She's already got under her skin, and she hasn't even started.
...are unworkable, unethical and extortionate in the cost for the British taxpayer. There's no information from the Home Secretary about the costs today. Will she admit the 120 million she's announced doesn't pay for a single person to be transferred? She hasn't actually got an agreement on the price.
Oh, yeah, she's already chewing on her lip. Careful there, Priti. If you get an higher up there, you'll be chewing on your nose.
For each person. In fact, the £120 million is the eye-watering price the Home Office is paying just for a press release. So what's the rest of the cost? What is this year's budget? How many people will it cover? The Home Office has briefed it might be £30,000 per person to cover up to 3 months accommodation, but that is already 3 times more than the ordinary cost of dealing with an asylum case in the UK. And her statement says... £30,000 per head for just 3 months. Ouch. She's going to provide 5 years of cost. Well, in Australia, offshoring costs £1.7 million per person. That is over 100 times more than the ordinary asylum cost from here. So where is all the money going to come from in order to fund this plan? She says she's going to save money on hotels, but the only reason we're paying a fortune in hotel costs is because the Home Office decision-making has totally collapsed. On her watch, Home Office are only taking 14,000 initial asylum decisions a year. That is half what they were doing.
See that look at her face? She looked like I was trying to hold in a fart.
5 years ago, half, taking fewer decisions than Belgium, Netherlands, Austria, never mind France and Germany. So the costs to the UK taxpayer have soared by hundreds of millions of pounds because she isn't capable of taking the basic asylum decisions. And because she's not capable of taking those decisions, she is trying to pay Rwanda to take those decisions instead. Whether people are refugees or not, whether they are victims of modern slavery or not, whether they have family in the UK, whether they've come from Afghanistan, Syria or even Ukraine. She is asking them to do the job that she is not capable of. She says it will deter boats and traffickers, but the Permanent Secretary says otherwise. He says there's no evidence of a deterrent effect, and there has been a total failure to crack down on criminal gangs that are at the heart of this problem. The prosecutions for human trafficking, for non-sexual exploitation, are down from 59 in 2015 to just 2 in 2020. Just 2. Well, the criminals won't be deterred because someone they exploited was sent to Rwanda. They don't give money-back guarantees, which means they lose money if their victims end up somewhere else instead. They will just spin more lies, and she is totally failing to crack down on those criminal gangs. So why not get on with her basic job instead? Properly crack down on human traffickers. Do the serious work with France and Belgium to prevent the boats setting off instead. She didn't even mention in this statement, and make decisions fast. The Home Secretary is just using this policy to distract from years of failure. She promised 3 years ago to halve the number of crossings, and instead they have increased tenfold. And this will make it worse for trafficking. The top police chief and modern slavery commissioner has said her legislation will make it harder to prosecute traffickers. When Israel tried paying Rwanda to take refugees and asylum seekers a few years ago, independent reports showed it increased people smuggling and increased the action of the criminal gangs. And that is the damage she is doing. She is making it easier for the criminal gangs and harder for those who need support. At a time when people across our country have come forward to help those who are fleeing Ukraine, to help desperate refugees, instead of working properly with other countries, the Home Secretary is doing the opposite. All she is doing is making it easier for the criminal gangs. So will she tell us the facts, the real costs of this policy, the real damage it's going to do to human trafficking and people smugglers, and come clean with the public and come clean with the House?
Oh. I would like to get into an argument with Yvette Cooper. You won't get a word in edgewise. I'm surprised she came up for air. It was just rolled off the tongue. You can tell she really gets under Priti Patel's skin, doesn't she? She just knows how to push her buttons. And it didn't. And didn't fail here, because all you just heard was petulance and having a go at the other side for Labour, you know, for something they did in 1605, or they passed a law in 1102, or whatever year it was, you know, because whenever you're struggling, flailing in the wind, just blame the opposition, you know, for what they did 80 million years ago. That's all this Conservative do now.
Home Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, Mr. Speaker, I should just say that response was just somewhat wholly predictable, if I may say so. And I think it's important just to say to everyone in the House right now, you cannot put a price on saving human lives. And everyone will respect that completely. And, Mr. Speaker, if I may, the Honourable Lady was a minister in the Blair government when the powers that have given this government to undertake the legal basis of this policy were introduced back then. And I don't remember the current Home Secretary, Shadow Home Secretary, exploding in this synthetic rage when she occupied a seat in the Blair government, when all those policies were put in action. And those, Mr. Speaker, were acts passed in 1999, 2002,
you're not answering the question, are you? You are not you're not answering how much is this going to cost. No, you're just basically just
to return inadmissible
blailing in the wind
to
like like
member states. And
like a rudderless ship, you know, going off into the distance and spouting nonsense about how Labour is crap and nonsense and blah 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 blah. This government is getting on with the job and still trying to get rid of all this nasty things that the opposition did while they were in Parliament, and I'm getting on with the job. And by the way, our Bodge is the absolute fantastic leader, and he never tells any lies, and this is in no way, shape and form a distraction to distract from the fact that our Bodge is a liar, a philanderer, a pathetic excuse of a Prime Minister, and it's absolutely disgraceful that they should be talking about what's happening in Ukraine, and instead they're talking about a cake and talking about a party, and they're basically talking utter nonsense. And while I'm at it, I shall blame Labour again, and this is how it goes. I did my best, because I know I couldn't stand listening to her for 2.5 minutes. But anyway, for all rubbish and nonsense, watch Theresa May just basically just absolutely banjacks her.
Theresa May.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I say, with respect to my right honourable friend, that from what I have heard and seen so far of this policy, I do not support the removal to Rwanda policy on the grounds of legality, practicality and efficacy. But I want to ask her about one very specific issue. I understand that those who will be removed will only be young men, that families will not be... well, the Home Secretary is shaking her head, so I've obviously misunderstood the policy in that sense. But if it is the case that families will not be broken up, and the Home Secretary is nodding, does she not believe, and where is her evidence, that this will not simply lead to an increase in the trafficking of women and children?
There you go. Absolutely banjacked. If you've gone too far for even the Maybot, you know, the hostile environment, the go home vans, you really are very extreme. And it just shows you the nodding her head, this, that and the other. How dare you question me? I'm Priti Patel. Wow. I'm not going to basically give her a chance to reply, because I think we've heard enough of pathetic, petulant remarks. But one thing I did notice, a lot of the people on the Labour side kept asking the same question that Theresa May asked, and she didn't answer. And then she got more and more petulant, saying, as I've said before, blah, 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 we are fantastic, Labour bad, you know. And that's all it ever was, just petulance and absolutely snide remarks, being sniping at anybody and everybody. It was just pathetic. But I just loved it because she went full frontal of a rant, sat down thinking, that's told her. Then the Maybot comes up and asks, well, I won't be back in this absolute bucket of sick of a legislation. I do hope you enjoyed that, because I thought it was hilarious. Right, I shall leave the video here until the next time. I shall bid you farewell and take care.